Hello, everyone. I am back. Yes, I have been MIA for quite a while. Life has been lifing, okay? Just some ups and downs. And one thing that I truly despise is moving. And well, that took some time and some energy, and yeah, so that was a whole ordeal I had to go through, which, you know, man, I despise moving. It's a whole hot mess. But settling in and I have not created a designated space yet for these videos. So, like I said, it's been a hot mess. So, not necessarily a completely bad hot mess, just I don't like moving. So that part in itself to me is, hot mess because I don't like it. Um, but yeah, trying to get my things situated again and yeah. So, I have neglected to make videos. I apologize to those that have been probably wondering like what happened. Yeah, life has been lifing. I'm going to try to get back on track with making the videos. I have seen actually since I ain't been on here that there's been a little bit of traction. So I don't know if that's because of my absence. I don't know, but hey, thank you to all those that have viewed the videos that have already been uploaded. I will try to get through some comments at a later date. I have been diligently reading though. That is one of my coping skills. I just like zone out, get into a book, and yeah. So I actually read quite a few books. The problem with that though is I wrote notes while I was reading, but I have not actually written up like what I want to convey to you all. I don't know. The videos may be a little bit different than what you're used to because I'm just going to give you what I got and what I remember vaguely because like I said, I was reading. It was like finish a book, pick up another one. Finish a book, pick up another one. I'm going to have to sort that out as well. So there will be some videos coming soon. So hopefully you will tune in for those. So let's just jump right on into this book. It is called Bring Her Home by David Bell. And this is the cover of the book. I actually have this book. This is actually my book. And let's go ahead and get right on into this. Okay, so this story revolves around a family that includes Bill, Julia, and their daughter Summer. Now, this family has lived in their current town for like 8 years. And Julia is in the process of obtaining a college degree. And Bill works as a techie person at the local college. And Summer is a high school typical teenager. This family's first blow was the death of Julia. The second major blow, though, is that Summer has been gone for 2 days. So during the search for Summer, there are two females found beaten very badly, and one of them didn't survive. Okay, so this part I have to tell you, it could be considered a spoiler, but I'm going to keep it as vague as possible because if I don't tell you the rest of it, it's going to be like, what? That doesn't make sense. So the deceased girl isn't who they believe she is. So now Summer is the missing teenager, and then there's her friend Haley that they always hang together. So that's why they thought the two girls that were found beaten very badly were Summer and Haley. And they were beaten so badly that they were really not recognizable or identifiable except for a couple of clues, which I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to read the book for that part, okay? So the deceased girl isn't who they believe it is, right? That revelation alone was intense, chaotic, and it will give you the "what in the world" response. Like it was a botched. It was a botched situation, which you would think law enforcement, medical personnel would have done a little bit more due diligence in this case. Now, with all that being said, you're going to have to read the book to uncover who the deceased person is determined to be, and how all of that unfolds is very twisty, heart tugging, and borderline appalling. Even with that plot twist mentioned, it continues to kind of play an intricate role in the remaining part of the storyline. So we are taken on a double Dutch experience to uncover what happened to the deceased girl and possible connection to what happened to Summer and Haley. Dun 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 dun. So there is a race against the clock to figure out where Summer is and what happens to these girls. Who is involved? Why? Like I said, there is a botched investigation to say the least. I felt for the families because this has to be one of the most gut wrenching, heart ripping, frustrating, and appalling situations that they could be enduring. Okay. No parent should have to go through this situation. And the way it was handled, just the detective may not have had their job if it was left up to me. It has to be beyond excruciating. And the author did an excellent job of conveying the emotions, turmoil, and inner conflict of the characters. I thought that was a very insightful and welcomed part of the story. We often hear, just the actions of what happened, but it's it was really nice to see the feeling of the characters, their inner turmoil, their inner conflict. So that was a definite nice touch on the author's part. It was also refreshing to read where the father isn't a complete jerk when a crisis arises. Usually they're depicted as like clueless, stupid jerks, unemotional, just not what we would want them to be as a father in a crisis situation often. And this author did a good job of depicting Bill as a devoted father, and he did as much as he possibly could to find out what happened to Summer, and I was delighted by that. I was delighted by the actions of Bill, whether some think they were good or not. Um, I was here for it. Bill did what I would think a father should do in this type of situation. Like most parents, there is the fear of knowing, but not being able to rest until you know for sure what happened to your child. Um, and so you rooted for Bill as a parent and felt his angst about possibly missing signs that, he wasn't as connected to his daughter, or he wasn't as knowledgeable of what she may have been going through. Did he, do the right things as a parent? I mean, it shows that inner turmoil that a parent would possibly go through. So that was interesting, okay? Especially coming from, well, a male. We usually typically hear about, the inner turmoils from the mom in a crisis situation, but it was nice to get the male possible reactions and thoughts in a situation like this. So the author definitely plays on the emotions of the reader. You are pulled into this search. I mean, I found myself trying to look for clues and trying to, connect the dots before everything was revealed. I will tell you, I did not figure it out before it was revealed. It was almost a double dutch because it was like, oh, well, maybe that. Oh, well, no, maybe that. Oh, well, no, maybe that. So yeah, you're doing a little bit of a double dutch in this situation. So let me tell you just quickly about some of the characters of this book, okay? So there is Summer. As I said, she's the typical teenager. She has lost her mother and is having a hard time leading up to the anniversary of that traumatic event. Summer is depicted as the leader of her peers, very involved in her community, kind of like the activist of her age group. She is a very vocal young woman that has a bright future. Now, Haley is Summer's best friend, and she is described as the follower. And Haley seems to kind of just go along to get along type. She seems like she knows more than what she is willing to say. And then there is Tina, and she is like the third wheel to Summer and Haley. She seems to be a follower and wants to be accepted by her peers. Tina has a sneaky or secretiveness about her. You kind of feel like there's just something off with this chick. She knows more than what she's letting on. But you will have to read the book to find out. Now, Clinton is another teenage peer, and he is hot-headed, cocky, and acts like an entitled teenager. Clinton seems to be the ringleader of his peers and has engaged in some unsavory behavior, which makes him a suspect in this situation. Brandon is a teenager, track star, has a bright future ahead of him, and he seems to be a follower and is caught up in this messy situation. He just does not want to be a part of this situation, but because he is in the peer group and has been associated with these other teens, he's kind of caught up in the mix too, but he doesn't want any parts of it. Then there is Bill, of course, the father to Summer. Well, not husband, he's the widow to Julia. And he is trying to recover from the death of his wife. And he's kind of trying to just pick up the pieces of his life. He's trying to navigate parenting a teenager by himself, a female teenager at that. So there's that dynamic that, he's kind of almost, I wouldn't say clueless, but, you know, he has the male mindset and he doesn't feel like he is doing an adequate job in the parenting department, especially in light of this current crisis. So then we go to Adam, and he is a hunky neighbor and Bill's so-called friend. Adam seemed a little sketchy to me from the start. Um, he often travels for work, isn't known to be dating anyone, and has an ex-wife and son living states away that he rarely sees or speaks of. Like I said, Adam came off real sketchy to me. Then there is Candy, who is Haley's mother, and Candy has some mother's intuition that she ignored. Okay. Candy gives off a secretive vibe, like she knows something but isn't telling. Candy is very protective of Haley and wants to preserve, you know, their reputation. Candy is depicted as more of the, a religious type of woman and, churchgoer, respected in the community, that kind of thing. And so obviously she wants to uphold that image and not be dragged into this particular crisis situation. Now, she does handle the traumatic situation with the poise, which makes me kind of respect her a bit more. I don't know if I could have been so gracious. I think I would have definitely popped off at a point, but she kept it together. Um, and you will have to find out how all of that unfolds by reading the book. Then there is Caleb, the minister. I felt that he was very involved with Candy's family. At some point, I was like, "Why is he here again?" Like, I know, ministers and preachers, they, come to the aid of their, flock. But I just thought, like, his constant visible presence was like, you ain't got nothing else to do? Like, I know this is a crisis situation, but he seemed to be like, they're there. And it made you think, like, hmm. Now, that just could be me. Some may think his presence under the circumstances would be warranted. But I thought he was just a little bit more involved than what I would think one minister would be in this situation. Then there is Rich, who is Haley's father. And he lives in another state, but has arrived due to the current circumstances. And Rich is portrayed as the hammerhead, bulldozer, tough love centered kind of dad. And he thinks the teens have been allowed too much leeway and should have been reined in well before all of this happened. And his behavior makes you say, like, I don't know. So you'll have to read the book to find out how all of these characters play a role in the unfolding of this story. This is the second book I've read in, the last couple months that had a detective named Hawkins. Okay. And I had to do a double take, like, wait, Hawkins? Didn't I just read another book with Hawkins as a detective? And sure enough, yep, I read another book where there was a Detective Hawkins. So I don't know if this year Detective Hawkins was the pick of the draw of what the detectives' names should be in these books. But I'm gonna keep reading and see if I find another Detective Hawkins in yet another book this year. We'll see. And so Hawkins is investigating this high stakes case and has some major assumptions and errors. Okay, like I said, he might have been fired after this. So it's a race against the clock. There's many twists, turns, and variables involved. You'll have to read the book to find out if Detective Hawkins will be able to uncover what has happened to these young girls, and will he be able to recover from his investigative blunders and errors and find answers for these families. So yeah, you'll have to read the book to find that out. Then there is some side characters that actually they have a good impact on the story. So there is a woman named Taylor, and she's a grieving mother that has a missing child or young adult. And she's kind of gone off the rails a bit and has an interest in this case of missing girls. And you will have to find out why that is when you read the book. Okay. And then there's Doug, who is Taylor's ex-husband, and it's believed he has information or involvement in what happened to the girls because of his past history. Yeah, and you'll have to read the book to find out how that shakes out. Then there's Paige, who is Bill's sister and the aunt to Summer. And she has arrived to support Bill during this traumatic time, be of assistance in any way, that she possibly can. And Paige has her suspicions about things and does some detective work of her own that brings up questions on issues at hand with the death of Julia and Summer being missing. And she also brings up questions and concerns and perspectives about Bill and Summer's relationship leading up to this incident. And then she kind of has a little bit of a dissection of her own relationship with Bill. Um, and you'll have to read the book to find out what Paige uncovers and how any of that relates to this current situation with these young girls. As you see, there are quite a few players involved in this double Dutch race for the clock game, right? You'll suspect something about each of them, really. The author does a good job of having you ping pong back and forth, thinking something about each of these characters that um, impacts what may be the result of this investigation. You'll be wondering what they're hiding, if they really have any involvement in what happened to these girls, if so, what it is, and oh, you'll just have to read the book to find out, okay? Um, the only warnings I could give is the nature of the story itself. There is some violence described. There is death mentioned. Um, and you'll have a range of emotions when reading the story, more than likely. You will feel sympathetic, irritated, suspicious, empathy. You might be appalled. Yeah. So there runs a gamut of emotions. Shock. There's a little bit of shock. You may feel some anger and frustration as well. So yeah, a range of emotions could be cultivated when reading this story. So there are discussion questions in the book, so I will refer you to that for conversation prompts. Libby categorizes this book as a thriller and suspense, which I agree with. I would also add drama and mystery. I read through this story pretty quickly. The author keeps you guessing and wanting to flip the pages for sure to find out what the ending is going to be, what the outcome is going to be. I was sucked into this storm within the first few pages and couldn't get out until the end. Like, I wanted to know what had happened. And it definitely took me on a twisty ride, in which I enjoyed. It was a very enjoyable read, even though the topic itself was kind of like, yeah. It was an artfully woven story. Like I said, you'll be ping ponging back and forth, like, okay, no, it's you. Oh no, it's you. Oh no, it's you. It's you. Oh, it's you. No, it's not them. So yeah, it'll definitely keep you guessing. Unless you're just one of those marvelous people that can solve mysteries well before they are revealed. Okay. Now, like I said, I had an inkling, but I'm not gonna tell you. So, with all that said, I definitely like the story. I actually read the physical copy, so during the heightened points, you definitely kind of read a little bit faster, like, here it is. And It definitely had its ups and downs. It definitely sucked me in. I wanted to know more. I wanted to finish it. I was entertained. So that is why I gave this a 9.5 out of 10. If you haven't read the book, go get it. Tell me what your thoughts are. If you have read the book, go ahead and tell me what you thought about it in the comments. So that is all for this book. I hope it piqued your interest and maybe you'll go pick it up and maybe you'll make a comment after you have read it, whether you agree or disagree with my assessment. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. As I said, again, thank you all for hanging in there. And if you have not already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Um, Go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and share the video. All of those are free ways of showing your support. So that is all for this round. And as always, until next time, keep turning the pages, my book lover.